Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to Gettin' Savvy in Health, Wealth, and Beauty. Important to note that everything is for entertainment purposes only. Please do speak and meet with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. And also, please meet and speak with your GP before making any health or beauty decisions. All right. We are in person finally with a proper setup.
Yes.
So we'll see how it turns out.
It's such a treat to be in person. Often we do our podcast over Zoom because you're traveling. I'm at my office. So this is nice to be able to be in person and hopefully visually for the people that watch our podcast on YouTube, it will look a little bit better as well. If you're just listening to the audio, then no one knows the difference.
Right. But if you want to see us,
then tune into our YouTube channel, Gettin' Savvy Pod.
And TikTok too. We're getting on TikTok these days, I think.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised now I'm starting to get like a lot of messages from it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'll have to forward them to you.
Okay.
But anyway, I can't believe it's Friday again already. Summer is flying by. Next week is a long weekend. But what did you do this past week?
This was a busy week. It was a fun week. Tuesday, I went for dinner at the Well. Have you been there yet? So I met up with an old girlfriend of mine who lives in Oakville. And so we sort of met halfway and we went to a new rooftop restaurant there, which was really good. The food was delicious. It was new. It was kind of, a bit of a trek to get down there. But once I was happy.
Okay.
And we had a good time and it was nice to catch up with her. She was actually my receptionist when I started at my first practice in medicine. And she was younger than I am, obviously. And she wasn't sure which direction she wanted to go with her life. And her older brother was a doctor who lived in Florida. And she never took sciences, but she thought, you know what? I want to go into medicine. So she actually took a year off and studied and was able to write the MCAT. She ended up going to Cayman, actually, for medical school. And I know you have a place in Cayman.
Yeah.
So she's a doctor now. And so we were catching up. And her husband, actually, who I'd love to have on at one point too, is in AI. So he's big in the semiconductor world.
Okay.
So anyhow, it'd be interesting
what a success story.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's really nice. So we caught up on Tuesday night. Wednesday, I had a girls' night out, which
I saw on Instagram.
So a friend of mine, it was her birthday. And so we got a stretch limo, like old school prom.
Right.
And we went down and we did karaoke.
Okay. And it was fun.
It's so fun.
Okay.
And you said you've never you don't sing karaoke?
I don't sing. I'd like to sing.
Well, I can't say that I'm a singer either, but I'm forced to because my daughter sings.
Yeah.
I've sort of had to be around it and learn it. And then, you have maybe a drink or two, loosen up a little bit, your inhibitions. And then it's super fun. It's a great night where you're going to get together rather than just like going for dinner and,
Yeah. Well, it's funny because your daughter is such a fabulous singer, let alone actor, let alone athlete. And I was wondering, where did she get the singing from? Because I didn't think you sung.
Okay, so a lot of people don't know this, but I'm actually not bad.
I'm sure you're not because she's amazing.
So I busted out, the song Highway to Hell? Then you can go in these different rooms. You can do the 90s pop room. You can do a country room. And then, I don't know what came over me. I'm sort of good at impersonating singers. So I don't know if I'm... Anyhow, it was lots of fun.
Okay.
And I obviously like the stage.
And yes. Do you want to give the place a plug? Where'd you go?
It was called Bar Mordechai.
Okay.
It was great.
Whereabouts is this?
So because we were in a limo, I wasn't really paying attention to where I was.
But I think every girl should do.
Yeah, no, I had no idea I was. But anyhow, I think it was like close to Dundas. It was like downtown Toronto.
Okay.
But I've also been to some other places. I've been to Dasha. I've been to Kissa. I've been to a few different karaoke venues.
Question though, you guys were all decked out. So normally when we get decked out, there's like men around. That's
no men.
No men.
We had our own room.
Okay.
It was just literally us girls. Okay. We had our own room. We had our own food, drinks, and just spent the night with each other singing.
Nice. Good quality fun.
It was fun. It was a good time. And then last night, just to wrap it up, I had a mother-daughter charity event where it was sort of like a challah baking experience. So you learn to bake bread together and some of the traditions behind that. But I'd actually never made a challah before. And
did it turn out well?
Yeah, it's amazing. I'll give you some after.
Okay,
it's too good. I need it out of the house.
Okay, I will take it.
I'm going to Greece next week. I can't be having challah every day. Okay, what about you?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I don't think my week was nearly as exciting, but I am embracing getting my mom ready to move into a retirement home.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I went to her home that she's been in. She's turning 94. They've been there for, 40 years or so. And, I'm just kind of embracing, like, looking at all the old stuff and the memories and everything. But one of the things that she actually found and gave to me, which is a surprise, is this book, The Natural Way to Super Beauty, written by Marianne Crenshaw, who was a New York Times author and a Vogue reporter for beauty and health, 1974. And she used this famous doctor who was the first doctor to create a skincare brand and attracted people like Marilyn Monroe to his office on Fifth Avenue. So I've basically finished the book in just a couple of
Give
hours,
me some
Melissa.
highlights. Give me some highlights.
So interesting. Okay. And one of the things that they talk about for good, like, it's all about how do you get the best skin? How do you get the best hair? How do you get your body to be in a good shape and kind of melt the fat away? Okay. And what's so interesting to me about this is not too much has changed.
Oh, I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say everything has changed. So let's look at that because, okay, how do you melt the fat off? Back in that day, I remember seeing a diet from, I can't remember which women's magazine it was from, but it was basically one glass of white wine in the morning, then a piece of fish, then another glass of white wine, then an apple, then one more glass of white wine. It's like,
Okay.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
and whereas now, how do you get the fat off? Well, now women, everybody talks about, eat protein,
Yes.
and GLP-1 drugs. But I feel like in the 70s, they probably,
Protein.
really?
Major protein. You will love this book. Like, the
Okay.
book cracks. Okay. It's yellow on the inside.
Okay, I'm
I've
happy to hear that.
It's, yes, major protein. They talk all about the fact that that's what we are. You have to up your protein. They talk about in here. So I've been looking it up. Hair shampoo that has protein in it. And a lot of, like, how back in the day people would say, oh, use a egg mask for your face and your hair. It's not broken down enough to be absorbed. So you have to have, I forget what it's called, it broken down to these molecules, which basically turn into peptides that then the hair can absorb. So it's protein peptides that can get absorbed into the hair. And I actually used grok. I was all over this yesterday, okay? Because I just got the book yesterday. And like I said, I've read it, the whole thing. There are shampoos that are specifically protein shampoos, and they're not any names I've ever heard of. So yes, all
I would
about
think
protein.
keratin is like
I
a big
know.
keratin treatment and Kerastase and all that. But we probably just don't think about it in the same way.
Yeah. So it'll tell you what to look for specifically.
So what's interesting, I was thinking about the other day, and I wondered if other people think about it like this. When you eat a chicken breast, when you eat a piece of steak, you're eating muscle. You're eating the animal's muscle. And if you ever think about, well, if you want to gain muscle, eat muscle, it kind of makes sense. And I think a lot of people don't realize that the chicken breast is a chicken, the strongest muscle is their pectoral muscle because they use it to fly.
Sure.
Right? So they build up a very lean, strong pectoral muscle. And that's why one of the healthiest things, and if you look at anybody in the bodybuilding community, anybody trying to lose weight that obviously isn't a vegetarian, chicken breast.
Really?
And that's one of the reasons. So eating lean muscles of other animals is helping to build our muscle. Yeah, so I just thought it was interesting. People don't think about that,
Yeah.
And they also don't think about when you eat meat, have you ever looked at the marbling of different cuts of meat?
Yeah.
So what's marbling? It's fat,
Yeah.
right? So often the most expensive and tasty cuts of meat are the ones that are the most marbled because they have the most fat in them. Like, Kobe beef, ribeye, all these delicious meats. But if you think about in our body also, we can also gain weight in our muscles, between our muscle fibers. And so sometimes when people lose weight, it looks like their muscles are shrinking, right? So they might have lost a little bit of muscle, but they're also losing the fat that they have in their muscle tissue. So anyhow, it was just an interesting thing to think about. Okay, so give me something else.
Okay, so something else. So part of with the hair aspect is, what they go through this myth, whether you believe it or not, or I don't know, but there was a myth back in 1974 not to wash your hair every day. It's not good for your hair, which is what we're all doing today as well,
I
right?
don't. I wash my hair once to twice a week.
Yeah, right. That's what they're saying, right? Like,
Yeah, but who washes their hair every day?
well, they're saying you should.
You should wash your hair every day?
That's what they say in 1974, okay? And the reason is because your hair, according to them,
Okay.
you're the doctor, according to them, it's so important that your follicle doesn't have any dirt on it. And so with the pollution and everything, it plugs it up and it doesn't give it enough time to breathe and be clean. So I'm actually going to start washing my hair every day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of work to wash your hair every day because then you have to dry it every day, which I hate.
Yes, one does have to do that.
Unless you let it air dry. But trust me, no one wants to see me with air dried hair.
I've seen it.
You've seen it. You've seen me with champagne air dried hair.
That's right. Champagne hair, dry hair.
Yeah.
In Aspen.
Yeah. Catherine and I I went to this party in Aspen. It was a lunch, but they spray champagne and no one told me in advance that I should that I should bring a hat or a toque. And so I had champagne all in my hair. And then I met her afterwards and it dried and I looked like a poodle.
Yes.
With like curly, poofy. Yeah.
But it was fun and great.
Cute,
and every man liked you because it
true.
didn't look like you were trying and had to be all primped and proper.
Yeah. Also, you know, the woman with champagne in her hair
is the fun girl.
Probably going to be fun. Yeah,
exactly. Okay. One other thing they said, which is interesting, is how important, and I wanted to ask you about this. This was actually going to be one of my surprise questions for you today. They talk about the importance of vitamin B and how vitamin B complex, so I guess having the whole vitamin B is important to do because vitamin B in itself, I guess there's so many of them that it is complicated and complex as a vitamin. So she said you actually want to take the vitamin B complex, okay? But then for hair, vitamin B6. Is
that biotin?
I don't know. It's in here somewhere.
Look it up. Let's see if vitamin B6 is biotin. But that would be interesting that they were talking about that.
And the reason why I wanted to ask you, vitamin B6 right here. See, I put down the page.
Did you order it yet?
No, I was busy today.
Okay.
And they also talked about how this really helped with weight loss too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tell me what helps with weight loss? The vitamin B12?
She says B6.
Okay.
So she was losing weight. She came across a mind blower, right? This was a book by nutritionist Linda Clark that who happened upon the thin making effects of vitamin B6 quite by accident. He was treating patients and found that vitamin B6 worked. So they also talk about lecithin and kelp and how lecithin really helped get rid of the fat, melt the fat away, vitamin B6.
Okay.
Apple cider vinegar, which is, one we've all talked about.
Yeah.
And kelp for, I forget what, but obviously the green of it. So anyway, that was fascinating.
It also goes to show you that the things women are concerned about today, they were concerned about 50 years ago as well. Our hair,
nails,
our weight, our skin. I mean, these are things that our muscles, our weight, so these are the things that we want to keep.
One other thing that they mentioned, which was really interesting to me, because my mother used to do it, how much protein apparently is in wheat germ.
Yeah. And it's called complex. It has all the B vitamins in wheat germ, I believe.
So that for your hair as well. So tomorrow I will be buying wheat germ.
Okay.
And they even give like recipes. And my mom used to do this. Take wheat germ with an egg in the morning and something else. Like it doesn't taste, I don't think it tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's, there's those things. And then now we have added knowledge as well with pharmaceuticals and different things that we can use. So I actually just got into my office this kit that has a scalp massaging system. So by stimulating your scalp, you're stimulating blood flow, which is obviously going to be good for the follicles. And then you put a topical treatment on it, which is a combination of a bunch of things which are shown to help. So there's some vitamins as well as minoxidil, which we've talked about before, which is the active ingredient in Rogaine, as well as Propecia, which is what men take orally, but we just have the version of that finasteride that you can use topically. And also using it, and then using, a lot of people are getting these masks that it's red light therapy.
Yeah, I want to buy
for the
one.
hair as well. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, but anecdotally, I've had people tell me that it absolutely helps.
Really?
Yeah.
So, and what's this kit called?
I can't remember the name of it. I can show it
Okay.
on
Instagram or
yeah,
whatever.
I can show it on Instagram.
So did you bring it in for people to buy?
Yes.
Okay.
So I got a sample in for me to try to see what I think, and then I'm able to recommend it. So far, the only things that I can say I would recommend are, yes, the Rogaine, or like the topical minoxidil and oral minoxidil. But like we've talked about before, the side effects of growing body hair everywhere is sort of like not interesting to me. So topical minoxidil.
Yeah.
Red light therapy, I think, sure, if you can invest in a mask, then go for it if you're going to use it. PRP is interesting too, that it can help. Some people say yes, some people say no. So I think, if you have the extra money put away and you want to try it, great. But if you're, if better not to put, if that's your last dollar, don't put it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then some oral medications. So the like spironolactone that we've talked about.
What's that one?
It's actually a blood pressure pill.
Oh, right.
But it has certain anti-androgen qualities that help with hair growth and also help with acne as well.
Okay.
So
question, vitamin. So it was interesting. I was going to start loading up on vitamin B because that's what I do.
although your vitamin B was high.
Well, that's what
when
I
we
wanted.
tested it.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, and your vitamin D was way too high. We talked about as well.
Because I take a lot of vitamin D because I don't like to get sick.
Yeah.
And I feel it helps.
I mean, I think hard to say, but you just don't want to overtake too much.
But
because
what was the thing you were saying a couple episodes back that you do look at vitamin B because it tells you something? Wasn't that vitamin B?
So we look at vitamin B12 levels, because if it's low, then you can be more predisposed towards anemia.
Okay.
And energy. People can often be tired and fatigued and have low energy. So we usually look at the B12 level for that.
Okay.
And if you're on certain medications, it can lower your B12 absorption. So if you're on metformin, which is a diabetes medication, or if you're on birth control pill. So this is something that was relevant to me that I looked at, and my B12 for the first time ever is low. And I eat a ton of meat, so you wouldn't think my B12 would be low. But because I'm on birth control pill, I guess it affects the absorption of it.
Okay. And vitamin B is apparently really important for a lot of your body, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, clearly hair.
Yeah, clearly hair. Although I've got a little help going on here.
Got a little help.
Yeah. So, okay, I like it. I will definitely read that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's probably only one copy and I've got it.
And you've got it. So when you're done, I can borrow it.
Yeah. I should call them and say, bring this back.
Yeah.
Why not compare?
Yeah.
To
I think
today?
it's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
What's going on in the markets?
So I guess in the markets, the big news obviously is what's going on with Israel and Iran. And the latest is that President Trump is going to give them 2 weeks to kind of come to some type of negotiation. And, it really hasn't rattled the markets, but I will say, and wars tend not to.
Yeah.
Astonishingly, but I learned that way back when I started in the business. And, but it does put, I think, a bit of a damper, certainly on any kind of movement. So I think for the past week or so, you've seen really just more of a mixed market, up a couple of points one day, down a little bit. So I think this week will just end the market somewhat flat to mixed, which isn't too surprising. And there's nothing wrong with the market taking a bit of a break because it has rebounded so significantly over the past couple of months since President Trump came out with the tariffs. Right. So there's that aspect. We also had the U.S. Federal Reserve, which we always talk about because, as we know, central bankers, which the U.S. Federal Reserve is the U.S. central bank, Bank of Canada is the Canadian one, ECB is the European one, BOJ is the Bank of Japan. So every country, all these countries have their own central bankers. And the U.S. Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, did not lower interest rates, which is what President Trump did not want him to do. President Trump wanted him to lower rates because, if they think that the economy needs that type of stimulus to lower rates. Remember, lowering rates makes borrowing cheaper, financing cheaper, is a positive for the markets, positive for risk assets. But he didn't do it. He said he's still very much data dependent. And it's interesting as well because we really still have to see the effects of the tariffs. And Jerome Powell, so he does a press conference as well. And he talks about the fact that, if prices are going to go up for, whether it's the manufacturer, the importer, the retailer. It's either going to affect the manufacturer if they take all the costs, or it's going to affect the end user, the consumer. So one would have to believe that that's going to increase inflation, and they don't want to lower rates if you've got inflation, because all that does is
Cause
create
more inflation.
more inflation. That's right. So I don't think this was unexpected in the market. So there was no major moves on the back of that. But it's still almost this tension between President Trump and the Fed, and some strategists and economists saying, the Fed is waiting too long. They need to lower these rates. And if they don't, the economy is really going to, go down. And then they're going to be playing catch up come the fall time.
Right. And I heard some people speaking about, could this be politically motivated?
Right.
That Jerome Powell doesn't want to do this because it might look good for Trump then.
That's right.
Come into, and I mean, I don't know if someone, I think you have an ethics in your profession. So it's hard for me to imagine that someone would make a decision that wasn't in the best interest of the economy that would be politically motivated. But what do I know? So,
well, I think you're right. I mean, you should operate with ethics, but there's been views that he's been political in the past.
Right.
So, we'll wait and see. The market is still, this is still expecting that there will be 2 rate cuts this year.
Okay.
So at the same time, let's talk about Canada for a moment, because it seems as though in Canada that we probably won't lower rates here. There's still a lot of unknowns as it relates to how the tariffs are going to impact the inflation front in Canada. And we've also heard from Carney saying that he would likely hike the steel tariffs on the United States if a deal's not determined within the next month, which is kind of what the agreement was. We also had the G7 this week, which seemed to be a bit of a non-event.
Yeah. Well, didn't Trump leave early because of the war?
Yeah.
And then...
I was only here for a few hours and left, and it doesn't seem as though, anything really transpired.
I feel he's like, I'll show up to the party and then go, like, for a few minutes, show my face and leave. I feel like that's what it was.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I guess there is a war. So,
right.
I guess it's a good excuse.
And it's good reason to go back.
Yeah. It's like,
good reason. And there wasn't a lot happening.
Yeah.
Amongst
so why
most
does everybody
countries.
say a war is not good for any? I mean, obviously, no, war is not good for unnecessary death of civilians and soldiers and whatever. But is it because it's just so expensive also? Like, why is saying the last thing the U.S. wants is a war? Because it's going to cost them even more money? Or what's the...
Well, I think one of the reasons right now is because of what it is doing to the price of oil.
Okay. So explain that.
So, if there's issues with transporting oil from that region of the world to North America, and it cuts off some of the oil supply, then the price of oil goes higher, and that's inflationary. So it's the idea of it being inflationary is one of the key reasons as to why it's not good. It also, to your point, costs money to fight a war. So you're spending money on defense. So the defense stocks have actually been doing well over the past week or so. So those stocks benefit, but other stocks that, would be maybe consumer oriented, consumer facing, like retail stocks, won't do as well because people can't afford it because the price of oil, nat gas, energy costs are higher. So I guess one point though to mention is that, and what's again always so interesting to me in the market, is just because there's something negative, very negative going on, or positive if we get a resolution, my goodness, is that there's always somewhere in the market that is going to do well. And there's something that's going to not do well. So gold has done very well because of the unknowns, the uncertainty, inflation. People think of gold as an inflation hedge because, when you have so much inflation and these central banks continue to print money, that actually devalues your dollar. When you have more of something, it's devaluing what you already have.
So they keep making more of it.
That's right. That's right. And so that's where people are like, well, the central banks can't touch gold. It's not in their purview. They can't print more gold. So that's why people like it as a store of wealth.
Similar to cryptocurrency.
That's right.
And Bitcoin, you can only mine so much.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I don't own any gold. Do you?
I don't.
Yeah, see, I don't.
And, I'm very remiss. And the question is, does it go higher or not? Because it's had such a huge run. And it was pointed out to me today in an interview I watched that, gold went down 30% in the 70s. So it's not immune. We just happen to be.
Well, and I always followed because, I mean, as we know, we've talked about, like Warren Buffett is who's someone I would look to, the way that you look to this first
Yeah.
last year or whatever, and he doesn't believe in owning something that doesn't have a utility. Like, so what's gold? So he says, he invests in companies that
Mhm.
produce something or make something. And so I don't believe he's ever,
Correct.
invested in gold. And so I sort of took that.
Yeah.
I understood what he was saying. And
Mm-hmm.
although who knows today
Mm-hmm.
what the belief is, or
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say the same thing with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. I mean, what is it? It's also just a store of value.
That's right. And the view, though, is that it will become more, there will be more use cases for it in terms of transactions and payments. And we have yet to see that. But the big news also out this week is the Genius Act. So basically, people who have been, involved in cryptocurrencies will say that one of the best things that can happen to the industry is to have regulation around it. And so there was regulation that was passed, I think, by the Senate, and now it has to go to the House, about regulating what's called stable coins. So stable coins is basically, and I'm not going to get into the weeds here, but basically it's where if you want a stable coin, you match one cryptocurrency to the same dollar value. So in other words, one for one with the US dollar. So if you got one stable coin is worth like, I don't know, 50,000, then you've got $50,000 or treasuries to match it, to keep it more stable, because as we know, Bitcoin has gone up and down so dramatically. And if you think about it, so this is trying to stabilize that volatility. Okay. And there were issues though with it in the past. I mean, I was looking at this during the COVID time period when stablecoins were just coming out and they weren't so stable. So, but hopefully through regulation and transparency and also audits of the companies that issue stable coins, that they make sure they've got the money in the bank that matches the crypto. And I just want to point out, because it's really interesting, there's a company called Circle that has issued a stable coin. I forget when, but it's been around. It's called USDC. Okay, that's the stable coin. And Circle went public on June the 5th. And the stock, so Circle, because it's a company, is now a stock, because it became an IPO, is now a publicly traded company. And it's been up about 350% since June 5th.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So that's the buy-in that this is an
They're
industry.
excited about that
Yeah. And this industry was only about $100 billion about a year ago. It's now $250 billion, the stablecoin market.
And isn't that what like David Sachs was hired by the Trump administration to be like the crypto czar or whatever, to do all that? Yeah.
Exactly. So,
interesting.
yeah, so those are
so who buys this? Like, who knows about these? And like,
well, it's interesting because right now apparently normally in the market, institutions, so pension funds, big money managers, they own about 80% of the assets out there, like risk assets, stocks, and what have you. So 20% would be you and me. Right now, the uptake in cryptocurrencies or the crypto world from an institutional perspective is only at 10%. These are numbers I've heard. So if their normal uptake would be about 80%, that's telling you that the institutions are just getting into it. And why do you want to get into it? Because the view of having these digital currencies, cryptocurrencies, it's more of seamless transactions. So versus going to your bank and getting paid, having to pay all these fees and the time it takes to wire money and make transactions. And hopefully with cryptocurrency at least, or Bitcoin, it's anonymous to a degree, right? They don't have all the tracking.
So do you think they named their company Circle because of Square? That's the other big company that deals in finance.
Maybe.
That I don't think has gone public yet.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That
or
makes
is it
sense.
more just transactional?
I almost wonder if it's more transactional, like full circle. We're gonna
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can debate that.
Yeah, we can look. That's a good question.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's a lot going on in the like war, Fed. So the war hasn't had an impact. G7 no impact. Fed no impact. Impact stablecoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I haven't done anything. I don't know if you've bought any stocks or sold anything or done anything in the past few weeks. I have not.
Not this past week, because again, it feels a bit muted to me. Actually,
Yeah.
probably not for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. You want to talk about some health?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got 2 studies that I saw that I just thought were worth mentioning. The first one was interesting because recently I've been talking to my dad and he's been tired and he's been napping more. And my mom's saying, dad's sleeping on the couch and I don't know what is he
Right.
bored or whatever. So then I saw this study that said napping patterns in older adults is tied to all-cause mortality. So it
What?
kind of made me take pause because I thought, oh God, is this a sign of poor health? So it said the timing, duration, and variability of daytime napping are associated with an increased risk for mortality in middle to older aged adults, new research shows.
Hmm.
So basically, it says an analysis of UK Biobank data, which included more than 86,000 non-shift workers. So in other words, we're not talking about napping in like emergency physicians or
Mhm.
firemen that are up all night. We're talking about just the average person who goes to sleep at night that also naps during the day.
Hmm.
It showed that longer naps and more variability in the timing of how long you nap and afternoon naps. So naps between 11 and 1 and 1 to 3 tend to be associated with an increased risk for all-cause mortality.
What does all cause mean?
Dying from any cause or being ill or dying from any cause.
Oh.
So it says here the cohort had a mean age of 63, 57% were women, and they were monitored. And daytime napping was defined as any sleep between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. So the median nap duration was 40 minutes. 34% of the naps were taken between 9 and 11, 10% between 11 and 1, and 14% were between 1 and 3, 19% between 3 and 5, and 22% between 5 and 7. And overall, as individuals aged, the naps tended to become longer,
Mm-hmm.
more irregular, with the timing shifting towards the afternoon. And when they saw this pattern and they adjusted for all confounding variables like smoking or obesity
Mm-hmm.
or how long you slept at night, they found that those 3 things were associated with higher risk for death and disease from all causes.
Mm.
So longer and more irregular naps may reflect poor nighttime sleep, circadian rhythm disruption, or underlying health conditions such as heart disease, metabolic disorders, or early neurodegenerative findings. So what does this tell me as a family doctor?
Yeah.
What it tells me is it's something that I might start asking my patients about during their physical.
Mm-hmm.
So we always focus on how do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night? Everybody wears now, if you're
Yeah.
going to have a wearable and have an Aura ring or something like that. So it's tracking your sleep at night. But I never think to ask about daytime sleeping.
Mm.
And I think now I will include it with my health check to say, like, are you napping?
Yeah.
Does it change day to day? And how long and what time? And if I notice that patients start telling me, well, I'm sleeping a lot during the day, it might make me look deeper into, okay, do I need to test this person for sleep apnea?
Mm-hmm.
Are they having some underlying heart failure or heart disease that we're not seeing? Do they have some COPD or lung disease?
Mm.
And, are they not eating properly? Like, what else is
Yeah.
going on? So
That's so interesting.
yeah, it was interesting. I mean, have you seen that? What about you? Your mom is
Yeah.
94.
Just turning 90.
Oh, sorry,
But
they
that's
said
okay.
94. Okay, turning 90.
She's still vain, so I have to correct you. Sorry.
Fair enough. Yeah, you never want to age a woman. Oh my God, no.
Even at 90.
Yeah.
Definitely napping and about 2 hours in the afternoon. And I would say it's probably like 1 to 3. But she just started napping like 2 or 3 years ago.
But there you go. And that's amazing, right? So imagine, and she's already going to be 90. So if you look at someone that's starting to do this at 60.
Yes.
What are we missing here? What could this be an early sign of?
Yeah.
And, it makes you think also you have to look at patients that are taking sleeping pills. It might be those sleeping pills aren't giving them as restorative of a sleep at nighttime.
Yeah.
So they may need to be, having more or changing that sleeping pill to healthier types or switching it. And so I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's just like another thing to ask, and even for anybody to start thinking about their own patterns, right? Everybody wants to be so self-aware. This is a really good one.
But I was thinking about aging the other day in the same way I think about a set like an iPhone. You know how when you first get your iPhone, like, wow, the battery lasts so long, the memory lasts so long, I never have to plug it in, all the apps work. It's just, then you have it for a little longer and you're like, oh, I got to plug this in again. I got to
Yeah.
plug it in again. The memory, it's like wearing down. You have to charge it more often.
Mhm.
And I feel like the human body maybe just needs to be charged more often,
Mhm. Yes. Yeah.
But
Like,
so
I think the myth, or maybe it's not a myth, maybe it is the reality, is that if it needs to be charged more, let it charge, because they say how important sleep is, right?
but nighttime sleep, not daytime sleep.
Isn't that crazy?
So anyhow, something to think
Okay,
about and look
yeah.
more into.
Because I was thinking maybe I'd like to have more naps.
See, I'm not a napper.
I don't nap either, but
I'm
I'd
not a
like to. If it's
napper.
going to charge me up, I will.
It doesn't. They're saying that, it could be that it's associated with mental decline, cognitive decline, neurodegenerative changes. Maybe a short nap could be,
Yeah.
this is different. This is longer nap. So maybe a quick 15-minute, okay, that could
Yeah.
do it. But if you're lying, if you're napping for 2 hours, middle of the day, why?
Yeah. Okay. What else was on your docket?
Migraines. So do you suffer migraines?
Never.
Yeah, me neither. I'm lucky. Migraines are quite common, especially in women. Usually in their 30s, they sort of peak. And then after menopause, they tend to decrease. But luckily, no, I've never.
Like, not even headaches.
Yeah, I rarely get a headache. When I have a headache, I know.
Well,
that
for me, it was because I had something the other night.
Because you had
a
drink,
I never get a headache, but if I do, it's like,
then you're getting a cold or something coming
no,
down.
I had too much to drink, or I had red wine.
Yeah, so things like that can trigger a headache, but still, it wouldn't be a full migraine the way that you hear about it in patients. So the definition of a migraine is a recurrent throbbing or pulsing headache, typically affecting one side, but sometimes it can be bilateral. That's often accompanied by nausea and change in vision. So anyhow, the study I saw it attracted my attention initially because it was AbbVie. So AbbVie is a public company that I know for acquiring Allergan that makes Botox. So when I think AbbVie, I think Botox.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of stopped because I see so many things, but this is what made me stop and pause on it. But it had nothing to do with Botox. It said AbbVie has another drug that is for prevention of migraines. And it said on Wednesday that its late stage study testing atogepant is the name of the drug. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. In comparison with the highest dose of Topamax, which is another migraine preventative medication, met the main goal of having less people stop it because of side effects. And I've never prescribed this drug. I'd never even heard of it. So I called my cousin who's a neurologist and I said, do you prescribe this? The trade name in Canada is Quilipta.
Okay.
And she said, yeah. And it's very effective for a small number of people that really have horrible migraines that don't respond to the typical triptans or abortive medications. So it's a daily pill that's supposed to prevent migraines, and it really works well. But apparently it's mostly prescribed by neurologists, not family doctors. And I wondered if the stock had a bump because of that news, and if it's a popular drug by them. But it said, the trial successfully achieved all endpoints. It showed that 64% of participants taking the drug experienced a reduction of 50% or more.
That's massive.
Yeah, in their average monthly migraine days during the 4 to 6 months of the double-blinded treatment period, compared to 39% of those on topiramate, which is Topamax. So,
did you look at the stock?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I'll look.
But I'd be curious to see if it's doing well. I don't know how much of that, how much of that
would impact
it. But it's good to know for me on a prescribing standpoint, because sometimes you have patients and it's so hard to say, look, I don't know. What else can we do? Usually with people that get migraines, you start off with just, Tylenol, Advil, trying to take medication, go in a quiet space, make sure they're hydrated. If that doesn't work, then you go to the triptan type medication. But if that's still not controlling the migraine, then it's sort of like, And this is often when we refer. And then we look for these preventative type of medications.
Well, it's, when you do have friends who really suffer from, I can't find it, who suffer from headaches. Like, if I even have a headache, like, it changes my whole day. Like, I can't imagine a migraine. Like, that's
it's bad.
debilitating. And so they don't seem to know why they occur, do they?
think it has something to do, well, I mean, there's genetic
Okay.
susceptibility and environmental triggers and factors. And it's something about like the serotonin. They think it has to do with the serotonin pain system in the brain.
Okay.
But
Hmm.
yeah. Here, let me look at AbbVie
Okay.
right now.
While you do that,
Mhm.
so I saw an interesting analysis the other day because you and I kind of sometimes talk when we talk about things like what do we want to own, what do we like, and again, like this week there really wasn't that much for me, but I thought, we talk a lot about owning dividend stocks, and we've talked about the dividend aristocrat stocks. So that means companies that have increased their dividend every year for the past 25 years. So what is a dividend? A dividend means they're just giving you part of the profit of the company. So regardless of what the stock price does, I'm collecting income. So I do have some of my portfolio, and I've been building a dividend portfolio. Like I have my growth stuff, I have lots of different things, but I also have been really focused on finding companies that pay a dividend when the stock price is low, so that my yield, what I'm earning every year, is higher, and just so I'm earning income on
So
these
tell me some of
stocks.
your favorite dividend stocks that you have in your portfolio.
I own them and but I bought them when the stocks were low. So the yield, what you actually collect every year now, will not be as high because it's a function of the stock price, the yield. But so I bought Exxon when everybody hated it, and I think I have an 8% yield on that. I bought Philip Morris when nobody likes tobacco companies for the obvious reasons. But
Except
I think
for
I have.
now, nicotine is
Oh,
having a moment.
is it?
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Yes. So I don't know if you listened to All In last week when they had Tucker Carlson
Oh,
on.
yes, I did. I couldn't believe
my
it. I
God.
can't believe this. Tell people what we're talking about.
So the whole time he's a big fan of these nicotine pouches. So the
Yeah.
one I know, the Philip Morris, or the one from
Is it Altria?
is called
Okay.
Zyn. Do you Zyn? Yes. Okay. So they're like Zyn nicotine packs, and Tucker Carlson has his own brand. I can't remember what it's called. He plugged it. I didn't
Yeah,
pay
he did
attention
plug
to it because as the doctor in me
Yes.
is like, yes, there are some studies showing that nicotine on its own may not be so harmful for health. I mean, it's not nicotine that's associated with lung cancer. That's the tobacco smoke. So they get
So
rid
it's
of that.
smoke.
So
Okay.
that's smoke. But nicotine, there's some evidence now saying it's good for cognition,
Okay.
focus, mental stimulation, memory. But I mean, the addiction doctor in me that's treated all sorts of addictions, I mean, it's not good to be addicted to something. And I'll tell you, these Zyn pouches are highly, highly addictive. Nicotine is one of the most addictive substances in the world.
Why? Like, what does it do for you? Because I listened to the Ellen podcast as well. It's one of my favorites. And, remind me what he said about it. It's almost like is he getting not a high, but like what? He's getting
the
a
nicotine's
calm,
the nicotine in the pouch
yeah.
is going through his cheek. Like it's
Right.
going directly into his bloodstream, right? So it's the same thing as like the guys that used to chew tobacco
Right.
and chew it to get the nicotine and spit it, except for the tobacco was carcinogenic. Now, this is like chewing tobacco that's not gross.
Right.
Although when you see someone having a Zyn, it looks like they're like sucking on it. Like it looks like
They got a holes in their mouth.
they're doing something. I don't know.
But is it a high that you get?
Yeah.
It's stimulative.
So
It's
apparently at the beginning, well, the way Tucker says it is like it caused a lot of people to throw up initially when they first use it because of the high nicotine content. But then I mean, have you ever had a cigarette or any nicotine in your life?
No.
So,
but after hearing Tucker Carlson, I think he's really smart. I'm like, would it help me?
well, this is this is what I worry about because what the problem is, like probably people will use it. First of all, I mean, people will use it for weight loss. That's number one, because nicotine's a stimulant, right? That's why all the supermodels smoke or used to smoke.
Yeah.
And it's a stimulant. So like any other ADHD type stimulant, like Adderall or, people probably will get a bit of a high. But the problem with these drugs is that when the nicotine level goes down, you get withdrawal symptoms. And those withdrawal symptoms feel bad, which makes the person want to have more nicotine. So you end up like, are you experiencing that high from it? Or are you just constantly chasing getting rid of the withdrawal feeling? So for me, like I said, as someone that was in addiction medicine and has treated a lot of patients with addiction, and back in my teens, I had to deal with smoke. Like I would not want to take that chance of being addicted to something.
Hmm.
And I don't believe that it's not going to have any cardiac and cardiovascular
Right.
implications. Like, I
Yeah.
just don't. But let's see. Time will tell. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great for the stock. I mean, that product is
Okay.
flying.
Yeah. Well, and I hate to say it, but like I kind of always thought that people are going to keep smoking. So the
Mhm.
stock went down. It has great dividend. It still actually pays 6.8%.
Wow.
That's better than you're getting in
That's
most
one of
areas of the
Adam's
market.
favorite in his portfolio.
Stocks?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He owns a lot of it and
Okay.
he buys more.
Yeah. And then I bought AT&T too, because that stock everybody hated,
Mhm.
but I figure it's a huge telecom company in the States. And I got like a 9% dividend yield on that. But again, these stocks have moved around a bit. So, but what I wanted to mention to you is that there's actually an ETF, because remember, we always talk about you can either buy the stock and have a stock specific portfolio, which I do. And I
Mhm.
also have ETFs.
Mhm.
But there's one that represents the dividend aristocrats
Oh, okay.
called Noble,
Okay. Like NOBL?
NOBL.
Okay.
Okay, so their top 10 holdings: Emerson, which is an industrial company; Caterpillar Industrial; Franklin Resources; IBM, if you can believe it; Cardinal Health; Coca-Cola; Nucor, which is a steel company. So those, you can look,
Those
anybody
are
can look
great.
this up.
Those sound great.
Yeah, but the ticker is NOBL. So if people want to look at that, they can. Interesting. So you compare that, and I want to just point this out because companies, when they have profit, they can do a lot of things. They can spend, CapEx and, build more products, build more manufacturing facilities, hire more people. They can do all of that. So that's more Apple's mantra. That's what they do. Apple does not pay a dividend, even though they have huge cash flow. And it's sometimes a bit of a bone of contention with investors. You get all this money, but you're not giving me any of the profit. Okay. And the stock hasn't been performing that great. So companies can either pay a dividend, keep their cash and build out, or they can repurchase shares. And we've talked a little bit about that. And I want to just go over it again because there's also an ETF that has a basket of companies that repurchase their shares by about 5% of what's outstanding. And I'm going to describe what that means every 12 months. So if you've got 100 shares outstanding and you decrease it to 80, so you're buying those shares, the company's balance sheet buys those shares back out of the market. Okay. They go into the market and they just buy them, right? Just like you would buy a stock or I would buy a stock, but it goes back and so they're essentially taking them out of the market. That means they've only got 80 shares left to distribute the earnings to. So that means if you're a shareholder, you just collected more money from the company because there's less people they have to pay. So there's an ETF that represents that as well, and that's called PKW. And interestingly, the share repurchase ETF, PKW, has gone up 114% in 5 years. 5 years. Whereas the Noble, the dividend aristocrat one, has gone up 51%, so half.
But you're getting paid the dividends, whereas you're not being paid the dividends on the other one.
You're not getting, well, they probably have some dividends, but the whole idea, like they probably pay dividends too. But the whole idea, they do, because I'm looking at Microsoft, they pay dividend. It's not that much, but Morgan Stanley. But the real oomph in helping the share price is that they're taking the shares out of the market. So what that also does, it's not just about, the profit. It's about when a company goes in there and buys up their shares, they're essentially putting upward demand on the share price, because if you've got more people buying and wanting to buy, there's more buying pressure than selling pressure. So that gives a little bit of a lift. It also tells people like me and you that this company thinks the best thing they can do with their money is to buy more of their company. So it's a confidence aspect too. Now, I will say that there are some government officials and investors who are very much against share repurchases because they think it's almost a fake way to boost their stock price. And that if they're that good of a company and a management and a CEO, you should be able to go out and find something that you can buy, that you can build, that is going to double the share price versus just kind of incrementally increase it.
Okay.
Okay. So share repurchase is actually a little bit controversial.
Yeah, I can understand that because it's a way to move things artificially.
Yeah. So again,
Okay.
the Dividend Aristocrat one, Noble, NOBL is the ticker. It's an ETF, all these companies in it. And then the PKW, it's got Morgan Stanley. So they tend to buy back their shares. Comcast, Amgen's been buying their shares back. Lowe's, the home builder, Lowe's has been doing it. And bookings.com, the booking company.
Yeah,
and
of
then
course.
and then
Just use them.
CSX. Yeah.
Just use bookings.com.
Oh, you did?
We're going to Greece.
Is that a new trip, by the way?
Yes.
And
I
how
haven't
did this
traveled
come
in
up?
a long time. So first of all,
Really?
people are like, you haven't been
Really?
anywhere in a long time. I haven't.
I
The
don't think
last time I was away
was Aspen.
was Aspen with you, and that was when?
Right.
March.
March.
Yeah. So that's a long time.
And then what about the boat trip? The big boat.
that was before.
I
Wasn't
know.
that in February?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there have been trips.
Okay,
Don't
okay.
get me wrong. And normally I don't like the weather finally gets good in Canada in the summer. So
Yeah.
usually I'm not, that excited about going away, but this is nice. It's just nice. This is time that I'll have alone without the kids. And
So
so
is it just you and Adam or other couples?
there'll be a few other couples
Okay.
there. But
Okay.
yeah,
So that's next week.
yeah.
Where in Greece?
So we're going to Mykonos,
Okay.
which I've been before and it wasn't my favorite island. I found it very windy, but I was
Okay.
only there for a couple nights. And this time we're going because we know people that are going there. So I want to see it again as a second time, less
Yeah.
rushed and a different lens. And then we'll probably choose another island.
Nice.
Not
Doing
sure
a
where.
boat or a hotel?
Yeah, hotel, but we'll probably take like Mykonos. You can get on a ferry and go to a bunch of different islands, and we might have a boat day. We'll see.
Okay.
And then we'll spend a day in Athens touring because I've never actually
Nice.
been to Athens.
Okay. I have. And there's a great hotel with an incredible roof deck that you have to go to. Yeah.
Okay, tell me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember the
I'm
name.
excited for the Greek food. Those are the best tomatoes in the world.
Oh.
So I plan to be eating tomatoes, feta cheese, and
Protein.
and fish and tons
Okay.
of fish. It's
Yeah.
the best. Those are the three things. Like yum.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited.
Nice.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else in your docket?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. All right. We'll do
Okay.
a little bit of a wrap.
Yeah.
And everybody can let us know what they think about this
The
setup.
new format.
The new format.
Yes. Okay. All right.
All right. We'll leave it there.
Bye.
Bye.